All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, again. You have made it to the last session of the connection, day 3. Thank you for all those who have stayed with us for the 3 days and soaked in all this wonderful information. You will certainly be amazed by the information that you'll get this afternoon from Mark Cunningham, our Chief Partnership Officer here at Carnegie. This session is a survey that we had done. CollegeXpress had done a survey of high school students, really getting information about what their thoughts are around college search and things they're looking for, what's important, and all sorts of great information. So you will definitely be given lots and lots of details and insight on what students are thinking. Before we get started, as you've probably heard throughout the 3 days, the session is recorded, and we'll be providing links to the recordings to all attendees next week. And you are all on mute and off camera, so we cannot see you. But the chat function is available, and I can see everybody checking in from all sorts of places across the country. So hello from New Jersey, from me. If you have questions, please use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen, and we'll feed those questions to Mark at the end if there is time. Also, if you have any questions or anything regarding any of the sessions, you can email us at marketing@carnegiehighered.com, and certainly use that with any questions that you have. And please be social, as you've probably heard us say quite a few times over the past 3 days, using the hashtag #TheConnection, and tag us at Carnegie HQ. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce Mark Cunningham. Take it away, Mark.
Thanks so much, Kevin. You can hear me okay? See my screen all right?
You are
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone, and thanks for participating in what's been an incredible 3 days here that we've had at the Connection Conference. This session here, we're focusing on some of the things that prospective students have to say in all of this. And actually, we'll be taking a look at some of the responses and some of the questions that we've asked over the past several months to both prospective undergraduate and prospective graduate students. So we'll highlight a few of those types of things. My name is Mark Cunningham. I focus in on a lot of the partnerships that Carnegie manages and the work that we do with so many of our university and organizational and association partners. I'm coming to you from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, but grew up in New Jersey, Michigan, and Connecticut. So if anyone wants to talk about Taylor Pork Roll or Detroit Lions or Werner's Soda or the Hartford Whalers, I'm happy to have those discussions as much as possible as I multitask in the chat as well. And fun fact about me, while I've attended 12 of the past 13 NACACs, in 2019, it was actually the exact 50th anniversary of my own mother having attended NACAC in Chicago in 1969, as she spent much of her career as a guidance counselor. So we're talking a lot about the voice of prospective students today, and we are able to gain a lot of the insights from that through Carnegie's CollegeXpress services. And for those of you that aren't familiar with CollegeXpress, it really is a go-to resource, one of the go-to resource for millions of prospective students, parents, counselors for their college and scholarship search, and for a lot of the information that they're in need of throughout that journey. And as a result, hundreds of institutions lean on CollegeXpress year in and year out to connect with the prospective students that they need. But really what that means is that we're able to tap into that audience from time to time to really ask some of the questions that can help inform the way that we want to go about marketing to those students, communicating with those students, engaging those students, and that's what we'll see a bit of today. I do want to approach things a little bit differently, though, today with our access to those student populations, both prospective undergraduate and prospective graduate students. We really want your input on what are some of the questions that you want to have answered with the fact that we can ask of these prospective student audiences, whatever it might be that would be most helpful for us. We plan to run some surveys and ask some questions of these populations over the next several weeks so that as we head towards the fall and NACAC and AMA and many of the other events that we have coming up, that we can produce some of that content for you, get some of those answers from those prospective students for you as well. So what I'd ask you to do is throughout this session and even afterwards, I know I did just invite some chatter on Taylor pork roll and other things, but to please use the chat function to post whatever questions you feel would be most helpful to hear directly from those student audiences as well. We do have a recording of the chat that happens, so we'll be able to grab all that information afterwards. And again, we're going to put it together and utilize it for some of the efforts that we'll do in some of our survey work in the next coming week. So we really hope that you can play a role in this as well. But let's get to some of the answers that we have gotten over the past several months. So we've asked prospective student audiences, again, at the undergraduate and graduate levels, a variety of questions that we wanted to focus on a few of those highlights with the time that we have today. So one of the areas we want to start with is online search, right? We all know that when we have a question, the first thing we ask, first person we ask is Google, right? In so much of our day-to-day. And so how does that factor into the approaches to online search that prospective students are taking as well? At the prospective undergraduate student level, we asked, do you use Google to search for information about a degree without a school already in mind, right? So as they're thinking about the options that they might have, the possibilities and opportunities that they might want to pursue, are they doing that more or less often without an institution already in mind as part of that search? And overwhelmingly, they said yes to that, right? They are going about a lot of those initial searches without a school name already in mind, but really exploring what their possibilities and opportunities are from an area of study standpoint. At the graduate level, we asked a similar question. When searching on Google for graduate school opportunities, which of the following best describes how you initially approached your search? 39% said I knew the area of study and programs I wanted to pursue, but had no idea what school I wanted to attend. And 25% said I roughly knew the area of study I wanted to pursue, but not the specific programs available or schools that offered it. Both of these stats at both the graduate and undergraduate level are incredibly important for us to think about how they're approaching many of their initial searches on Google and what they do or don't already have in mind as they're doing that in terms of school name or brand. In a way, it comes down to, are they searching for or wanting coffee? Or are they wanting Starbucks coffee as they go about those searches, right? Branded versus unbranded search activity as they're exploring what it is that they might want. Translate that to how we might go about Google search for the education that we might pursue, right? Am I looking for an MBA in Philadelphia? Or am I looking for an MBA, what MBA possibilities are at Drexel, right? Two very different approaches, two very different stages of the funnel. And so when we get to the root of some of those types of questions and answers, this can really help inform how you're prioritizing, in this case, some of your approaches to search visibility and performance. This is not my kid, but it's just an image to make the point of one of the first steps that we always recommend, and I heard this in a variety of other presentations throughout the week, is to put yourself in their shoes. As you're going about some of the analysis about how you and your institution are appearing in the different types of branded or unbranded searches, it's so important for any of us in any of our roles to put ourselves in the shoes of the prospective student audience and do some testing in those ways, right? To discover what it is your audience is searching for, right? We can perform keyword research to see what are the keywords and phrases that the audiences we care about are searching for. We should be doing that in both long form and short form queries, right? Those detailed queries when they might know a bit more about what they're looking for versus just those broad generic MBA in Philadelphia, right? Another thing to check as you're putting yourself in their shoes is as you search for your own institution along with some other qualifiers and keywords in those phrases, are you seeing other institutions appear in those branded searches, right? In other words, are they bidding on you, or other institutions bidding for paid search on your institution's name? That obviously impacts the real estate that you're able to own and control, and something you want to be aware of. And you should be able to obviously gain a competitive advantage by maximizing and optimizing the way that you're going about your own branded visibility and search. And not just what are they searching for, but and if you're appearing, but how are you appearing, right? What position are you appearing in search, right? How do what type of message is being demonstrated and served up as the answer to the questions that they're asking? Those are things that we need to evaluate as well. There's a few tools to really gain some further perspective on what your audiences are searching for. So Google Search Console can give you insights into the keywords that your website is already appearing for, right? So and give you some sense of the performance of how you're doing with those keywords and phrases that you already are appearing for. And then you can use tools like Google Keyword Planner and Keyword Everywhere to find new keywords and phrases that you perhaps aren't already appearing in searches for, that you definitely feel you should and need to be, right? So I mentioned branded searches, right? Those searches that are occurring where they're entering your institution's name along with some other qualifiers. And so in addition to, again, just are you appearing, it's really important to think about how you're appearing, right? So those results that are coming up, are they demonstrating the right type of message and information and answers to the question? When I click on those results, is it bringing me to the page that I would want those audiences to go to and providing them with the right answers? So you can also consider the metadata that's involved, and that's really the titles and descriptions that are appearing in those search results. And is that enticing? Is it getting me to click on this result and answering the questions that I did just ask Google versus the result that might be above or below it? The other thing that we need to consider within Google search results, and this is referred to as SERP or search engine results page, is that real estate is changing practically daily. There are now dozens practically of things that you can optimize for within those search results, right? Site links, featured rich snippets, news box, posts, videos. Those are all things that you can organically optimize for in search engine optimization. And so to go about ensuring that you're appearing across all those areas of real estate in the best way is something that you also need to make sure you're thinking about. You'll see me post a few of these resources throughout the presentation. But a little while back, we had actually posted a blog that literally goes through each of those areas of this search engine results page and those special SERP areas, and gives tips and tricks for free to optimize towards those, to make sure that you're performing as best possible. So I invite you to go to our website, carnegiehighered.com, and to get to this blog specifically, you can just click that magnifying glass search option and just search special SERP. So next we focus some questions on your website. Many will tell you your website obviously is the most significant tool in your recruitment resource kit, right? And so ensuring that your website is performing in all the ways that it needs to and serving the purpose that it needs to for both your prospective students and for you is critical, right? So a few things to consider as we think about that before we look at some of the questions and answers from prospective students. Can they find your website? Can they find what they're looking for on your website, right? Does your content answer their questions, right? They will bounce if they have searched Google and or searched your website and aren't able to find what they're looking for. Is it easy to request more information, right? Can they do what it is that you want them to do and that they want to do while they're there, right? Apply, deposit. Those action-oriented items on your website need to be as easy for both you and for them to accomplish as well. So these are things that typically serve as barriers to good conversion rates and traction and engagement on your website if they're not all happening as they should. So we did ask for the prospective undergraduate population, when you get to a college or university's website for the first time, what do you look for first? And top answer on the board is list of majors, information about a specific major, right? So they're looking for that type of information first as they're getting to your website for the first few times, right? Then we get down to admissions requirements and financial aid and scholarship information. Those obviously probably would emerge much more as we get further down on multiple visits and multiple times, and as they're thinking about you as much more on their short list of things. But as they're getting to your website and 8, 10, 12 other institution websites for the first time, they're looking to see if you offer what they are interested in, right, for the first time. At the graduate level, we saw some of the same type of response, right? List of graduate programs, information about a specific program as the top choice, then admission requirements, then financial aid and scholarship information. This again was asked in the realm of your first visit or few visits to the website. What are you looking for first? Interestingly enough, with that being the top answer for what they're looking for first, when we asked, is there any information you look for on a college or university website but frequently don't find? 30% said detailed program information, right? So there's a disconnect there. One of the things that they're looking for first is one of the most significant things that they have the most trouble finding what they're looking for. The top answer, which shouldn't be any surprise to that question, was actually more detailed financial aid and scholarship information. These are some areas, in particular this area, where if you're not presenting that clearly and concisely and in an easy to find way, their opinions about you and your institution will really start to deteriorate, right? They will start to think that it's being hid or that it's not being easy to find on purpose. Those are some things that came through in some of the qualitative response to some of these questions that we saw. And speaking of, these are just a few comments that we saw come through as we asked some of these questions about the website. We had a few qualitative questions in many of the surveys that we had involved. So I feel that most college sites have succinct info for degree and program requirements, but finding this page can be annoying depending on the college. There were several schools where I had to search and search the website in order to just find the list of programs, making it very difficult. It also lowers my opinion of the school if their website is that hard to navigate. We're starting to see words that demonstrate emotion here, right? Just by creating a tough website, a poor user experience on the website, we're starting to elicit negative emotion from these people as they're giving us some of their feedback, right? College websites are really confusing. There were only a few sites that had clear information as to their requirements and application process. So when we think about typical barriers to a good website or user experience, some of the things that can be thought about, right? Complex site architecture, right? Is it just too complex to navigate around? Is it not intuitive, right? One of the best practices is certainly having sidebar menus that will follow them around and enable them to navigate where they might want to go, wherever they are. Both users and Google hate duplicate content. It confuses Google and users as searches are happening. They don't know what the right answer is, so they don't know what page to serve up. And so that's a really bad kind of area for website user experience. And then obviously, if you're going to a website and doing search functions on that website, and if that's not working well, that's a bad experience. And then as we saw in some of that qualitative response before, if the content they're looking for is buried or hard to find, that certainly leads to a bad user experience as well. So in part of our questions, we asked, where do you look for video content to get a feel for a school? We had a few sessions focused certainly on video in a variety of ways throughout this week. And so we asked what, specifically when they're looking to get a feel for the school, where are some of the places they go? This was a select all that apply question, and it shouldn't be any surprise, but it certainly should be a significant consideration that the top answer is the school's website. So when you think about prospective students coming to your website and looking to consume video to get a feel for the school, this is a great gut check for what videos you have readily available, easy to find and consume on your website that accomplish that, right? Get a feel for the school. YouTube shouldn't be a surprise that it's next in this answer, and then we get to Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Again, this is not a question about where are you simply spending your time to consume video in general. We'd see a much different answer as we think about Instagram, TikTok, those types of things. But when they are trying to get a feel for the school, this is the way that they're responding to that question. So with YouTube being the second one, it's important to think about YouTube in terms of how your presence is on YouTube. Now, there's all sorts of advertising options that you can do on YouTube. So you certainly can, pay and establish some campaigns on YouTube to ensure that you're appearing in front of the prospective student audiences in all the ways that you want to. And there's a variety of options from in-stream and video discovery ads on down to lead gen ads that you can do with video on YouTube. But an important thing to keep in mind is that YouTube very much needs to be thought about as a search engine as well, right? So literally there are all sorts of initiatives. We help all sorts of schools do search engine optimization specific to YouTube. So I would recommend that you really think about it in many of the same ways that you're thinking about how are you performing as you need to be on Google search as well. Similar to what I said before, we do have a resource, a blog that we published that gives some tips, tricks to optimize as best possible for video across YouTube and other channels. So once again, if you go to our website, carnegiehighered.com, you can search for video SEO, and this blog will come up and it'll give you a free resource right there to be able to get some good advice on optimizing for that. As we think about Instagram, Facebook, we saw in some presentations before constant changes in the landscape there. But as we think about students going to some of those channels to consume video content to get a feel for school, we need to keep up with those and ensure that we're having the presence that we need to as an institution on those to respond to that type of thing. So you can get some of the latest from some of the blogs that we've posted here just by searching for Facebook restrictions as just part of the title of one of the more recent blogs there on some of the changes happening on Facebook and Instagram. And then TikTok, we had the honor of having TikTok present as one of our sessions yesterday. We have a lot of tips and tricks on how to get the best out of your video ads on TikTok. So once again, you can go to TikTok video or search for TikTok video on our website and you'll get to that area as well. So do you enjoy when web content is tailored to your interests or browsing behavior? We live in an Amazon world, right? And I know my device now is going to respond to me on my desk, but we live in an Amazon world where expectations really are high around customized and personalized content and experience on websites or virtually anywhere we go. So when we ask grad students, prospective grad students, do you enjoy when web content is tailored to your interests? 59% of them said yes. Now, when we ask, do you expect content to be personalized on return visits to that same website? Roughly 36% of them said yes to that. So they enjoy it. Are they expecting it? Not necessarily. So there's some dots we can connect there to really provide them with something that they're not expecting as much within their higher ed website experience. Now we ask the same question of prospective undergraduates as well. Now the answer to it, whether or not they enjoy it, was very similar to the prospective graduate student, but the expectations for it are slightly higher, right? So when we think about that younger age student, they're starting to have higher expectations around having that customized and personalized experience. The good news is having customized and personalized website within the world of higher ed is no longer some major overhaul, right? You don't need to have some big website redesign or redevelopment, right? There are plugins and technologies that are available that can really ensure that you're responding to the behavior and interests of those prospective student visitors to your website in real time and based on a variety of factors. So now websites can respond to that based on the prior campaign interactions, right? If they clicked on an ad that was for a certain program, your website can know that when they get to your website and are navigating around and serve up content specific to that, right? Even their website, their behavior on your website can start to inform how your website responds. The interest that they've demonstrated in different programs or in your school and having requested information or signed up for an information session, right? Your website can know that and make sure that it's not responding out of alignment to what they've already demonstrated or done as part of their process, right? And things like demographic information or personas, these can all be loaded into how your website behavior and activity can be responding and leading to higher levels of engagement, better user experience, higher levels of conversion. So our last category here is very recently, within the past 2 weeks, we actually on CollegeXpress surveyed 2022 high school grads. And one of the questions that we asked them was, what grade did you first discover the college or university you ultimately chose? And I don't know that this, is terribly surprising when we look at just kind of the breakdown of responses. Is you certainly have the category that, well, my mom and dad, which I've been talking about Boston College since I was, in diapers, right? So the much younger age students knowing about the school that they chose from a very early age. But as we look at certainly the high school years, and I have a high schooler going into sophomore year this year, and I think about this response as I think about where he's at. But we see, right, 10% freshman, 10% sophomore, 21% junior year, and 35% senior year, right? So when they are talking about when they discovered the school they ultimately chose, we do still see that, heavy weighting in the junior and senior year. So this needs to continue to stay in mind as we think about, those areas of strategies like student search, right? There's so much conversation out there right now about really needing to redefine the definitions and the approach to student search as it's previously been defined, right? Really meeting students where they are and when they are, right? And so there's all sorts of tools and tricks and new technologies that can really make sure that you're approaching your communications to sophomore and junior audiences, how you're meeting them across social or within search in different ways. And then obviously as they rise into their senior year, and the messaging and communication that you're doing that will resonate with them, and get the kind of action-oriented behavior that you're needing at those stages as well. There's tons of data out there to inform your strategies to reach different types of audiences at different stages in their journey or even age, to be able to really inform that strategy, right? So you should never just say, hey, we want to do a campaign on Facebook or a campaign on TikTok just because someone's telling me that we should, right? You should inform your strategy with resources like Sprout Social that have all the demographic information of the different platforms and channels that you can lean into for answers to some of what we know are how they're discovering and when they're discovering the schools of their choices. When it becomes tougher and tougher to reach prospective student audiences at earlier ages through outbound communications and digital campaigns and things like that, we can lean into making sure that we're responding to interest and intent, as we talked about before with Google search. So ensuring you're leaning into the best practices that are happening across those channels, so that you're capturing the attention and being able to address some of the limitations that might be available with some of the ways that you can reach and target audiences at certain age groups in other ways, is a big advantage. And then finally, we've seen so many different channels, organizations, associations be part of this connection conference this week: TikTok, Spotify, Snapchat, Google, LinkedIn, right? So leaning into the data, information, and tactics and strategies that we're hearing and learning about through weeks like this really can help you respond to some of those types of answers like we just saw. And as I mentioned, we surveyed the high school graduating class of 2022 recently to get some answers, and really wanted to get a sense of when they're using resources like CollegeXpress, right? And there's many of those types of resources out there, but it's important for institutions to think about whether or not or how they are representing themselves on those and making themselves available to give information to prospective students like that, to make students aware of them as an option for an opportunity for them, and certainly to connect with them in whatever ways possible. So when we asked which areas of CollegeXpress, the CollegeXpress site, did you find most helpful during your college search? The college search tool was certainly top of the list. The school profiles and the information that was available so that they could learn and understand more about them and then compare. Lists and rankings, the email communications that come out from independent resources in their mind from CollegeXpress really is helpful in their journey and search for the opportunity that they're going to need. And then when we asked, how do you use CollegeXpress on your college search journey? A lot of it's around comparing and researching schools that they'd never heard of before, right? So as they learn about new schools, of course, they're going to go to those institution websites, and they're also going to go to some of those resources that can help them compare and get more information and perspective about whether or not it's the right choice for them. So we really like to get this type of information as it informs both our strategy and how we think about prospective student behaviors and connecting with those and engaging those students as best possible. So with that, as I mentioned before, what we really want to hope for is input from you all. When we think about what types of questions would you want answers to, that we could produce the content and help to inform any strategies that you might be taking for your next cycles and over the coming year. So things like, and this would be the kind of just some drivers of hopeful conversation, post in the chat, follow up. You can email us at info@carnegiehighered.com. But are we looking for more answers around, their social media preferences and behaviors and how they want to be communicated with and engaged with across the different channels that are available on social media? One of the questions we asked in some of our recent grad surveys was, both where are you spending your time on different social media channels, but also where are you looking for graduate school information specific to social media? So their communication preferences, right? Email, text, obviously, online and social, those types of things. We can ask those types of questions on the fly. Their mindset surrounding topical areas or timely issues. We published a number of reports throughout the pandemic about the mindsets of prospective students and how their decision-making was being impacted, right? Everything from location to in-person to online versus on campus. Those types of things were all factors. So as we think about the different topics of today and priorities of today and how we might want to best communicate with these prospective student audiences, what are some of the questions that would be best for us to ask those millions of students that CollegeXpress has access to, that we can then provide back as answers for you? right? So certainly we can slice and dice the information in whatever ways around audiences and age specific. I mentioned the graduating class of 2022 that we recently did. The graduate one, we can look at different sets of data and audiences as we need to. The role that your website plays in online search, we are constantly digging into that type of thing in terms of their opinion. What we love to see, actually, we ask a lot of questions at the qualitative level to get really their raw and unfiltered answers to some of those. How would you recommend students, or how would you recommend institutions improve their website experience? You'd be amazed at some of the answers that come through in some of those types of questions. So yes, once again, we invite in the chat any input that you'd have for what you'd like to see. If we end today and you've still got some thoughts on what you'd like to see, we invite you to also email us at info@carnegiehighered.com for anything that you'd like to see CollegeXpress and Carnegie help answer to inform your approach.
Mark, before you run, I know for our last couple of seconds that we're on, I think we have time for one question.
Sure.
We had someone say that we're hearing for at least a decade that email is a dinosaur, and we still rely heavily on it, although we do not inundate students' inboxes. Any updates on this front? And I think one of the questions we asked a while back, or maybe even this survey, was about their preference of email, or do they feel email is a little bit too much? Any insight on that?
Yeah, so some of the most recent questions we asked specific to that were probably impacted by it being during the pandemic times that we were asking some of those questions. There's certainly a variance of opinion on that based on kind of where they're at in the funnel, right? So from a communication preference standpoint, we've seen, at least in previous surveys, certainly a desire or an openness to more frequent email communication once they've kind of engaged with you, once they kind of consider themselves connected with you and within that process. However, email plays a significant role in some of that awareness creation, right? And so as long as, and from a frequency standpoint, we'll actually have this be part of some of the questions that we continue to survey on over these next several weeks. But when you are differentiating yourself, when you are speaking kind of about your institution in an authentic way, when you are connecting with the right students and talking to them about, in those initial emails, about the things that they care about based on what you can inform your email communication plans to be, based on what you know about them in advance, things like psychographics and demographics and demonstrated interests and those types of things. That's where it makes a difference. But in terms of some of the survey response that they've had around kind of what they are saying they like about email frequency or communication or whatever, there's varying opinions. So
you can wrap it up, my friend.
Great. Well, thank you so much for attending. I have the honor of being the last presentation, so we can say that is a wrap. I know we don't have all attendees for all sessions on here, but I do thank you all for attending and being a part of the conference that we've hosted over these past 3 days. We really are honored for all the speakers and organizations that were a part of it. We're so thankful for all of you to be attending and involved and participating in all of the sessions that we've had throughout. Just such a fantastic experience this week, and we're so thankful that we were able to have you all be a part of it. So we do encourage you to stay tuned. We're constantly hosting different types of events and opportunities. We've got our own in-person Carnegie conference that we host every year down in Disney World in January. So stay tuned for more information as that continues to develop. And we'll be looking certainly to do additional versions and iterations of the Connection Conference as we look both to next year and potentially in between. So thank you once again. Feel free to reach out to us with anything that you might need at marketing@carnegiehighered.com, our website at carnegiehighered.com. And we hope you have a great remainder of the day and a great remainder of the week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.